CBS This Morning, Saturday. The COVID-19 pandemic has put a spotlight on so-called wet markets where animals are sold and sometimes slaughtered. Scientists believe a wet market in Wuhan, China could be where the coronavirus first jumped from animals to humans. Now there's a growing effort around the world to shut these markets down. And as Jim Axelrod shows us, hundreds of them are right here in the U.S.
Last month, small groups of animal rights protesters gathered at some of the more than 70 live animal markets that operate legally around New York City. These are not the same type of markets like those in China that sell exotic animals.
Generally, when people are talking about wet markets, they're talking about live animal markets where either livestock or wildlife or exotic animals can be sold.
Dr. Ben Lotman, an infectious disease epidemiologist at the Rollins School of Public Health at Emory University, says the live animal markets here pose their own significant health threat.
Anywhere that humans come into contact with animals is a potential exposure, is a potential opportunity for an infection to jump from animals to humans. Live markets, they might pose a special risk because of the diversity of animals that are sold.
According to the CDC, more than 6 out of every 10 known infectious diseases in people can be spread from animals. Tedros Adhanom heads the World Health Organization.
Wet markets are an important source of affordable food and livelihood for millions of people all over the world. But in many places, they have been poorly regulated and poorly maintained.
Video obtained by CBS News from animal rights activists of live animal markets coast to coast show unsanitary conditions. Animals in cages stacked on top of each other with feces, urine, or blood able to flow between cages.
In terms of how sanitary these markets are, do these markets pose any kind of health threat?
I wouldn't eat from one of those markets.
New York State legislator Linda Rosenthal is alarmed at what she says is the lack of oversight from state and local governments. She has introduced a bill that would shut down the markets while the risk is evaluated.
It's really a matter of public health.
Come see what we do before we pass judgment. We keep all our animals separate. We sanitize multiple times a day. It's part of our routine before COVID.
Imran Uddin's family has run a live animal market for 64 years in Queens, New York, and says they are vital for customers wanting kosher or halal meat.
For a lot of my clientele, it's a tradition. It's a way of preserving their way of life.
Since the COVID crisis began, New York State has stopped inspecting live animal markets. Assemblywoman Rosenthal has sponsored a bill that would suspend the licenses of existing live animal markets and stop issuing any new ones. For CBS This Morning, Saturday, this is Jim Axelrod in Montclair, New Jersey.
There is much more news ahead.